Earlier this year, South Africa published its draft national policy on artificial intelligence. It was meant to be a milestone. Within days, it was withdrawn, not over politics, but because the document itself was built on sources that did not exist. Fabricated AI-generated citations sitting inside the very policy meant to govern AI. Before the rules had even arrived, the oversight had already failed. And I think that tells us something important about everything that follows. Let me be clear. I believe South Africa needs a national AI policy, and we need it soon. But I want to separate two things that are easily confused: writing a policy and enforcing one. A policy is a statement of intent. Enforcement is what happens when someone actually breaks it. The first is a document, the second is governance, and they are not the same thing. So, how does South Africa plan to enforce its AI rules? The government has chosen not to build a single AI regulator. Instead, oversight will be spread across the regulators we already have, each sector policing its own use of AI. It sounds sensible, but it also means enforcement will only ever be as strong as the weakest, most stretched regulator in the chain. We already have a preview of how this works. Our data protection law, POPIA, already lets the information regulator fine an organization up to 10 million rand. And it has begun to use that power, issuing real penalties against government departments and private companies alike. So the teeth exist, on paper at least. But look a little closer, and the reach is thin. By the regulator's own reporting, only about a third of public bodies file the reports the law already requires of them. If two-thirds can quietly ignore an existing obligation, ask yourself honestly, what happens when we add a complex new one on top of it? Now, here is the part that gives me some hope. While we wait for the national policy, enforcement has quietly begun from the bottom up. In healthcare, the Health Professions Council now holds doctors accountable for how they use AI. A doctor cannot hide behind an algorithm. The accountability stays with the human. The rules are being built one sector at a time by the regulators who sit closest to the harm. The rest of the world offers us four rough models to learn from. Europe tries to prevent harm before it happens, with strict checks and enormous fines. America mostly waits for harm, then punishes it through existing law. Singapore guides gently, with sandboxes and voluntary codes. And China enforces hard, but only because it runs everything through a handful of platforms it already controls. But here is the lesson that matters most for us. Europe wrote some of the toughest penalties on Earth, up to 7% of a company's global turnover. And yet, more than a year after the law took force, most of its member states had still not appointed the officials meant to enforce it. If the wealthiest bloc in the world struggles to build that capacity, we should be honest about ours. And this is the heart of it. A fine you cannot levy is not a deterrent, it is theatre. The real cost of breaking a rule is only ever as real as the enforcer's ability to detect it, prove it, and survive the fight in court. So the goal is not the biggest penalty, it is the credible one. A modest consequence applied reliably changes behavior. A giant one applied never changes nothing. So my question to you is not whether the policy is coming. It is coming. My question is whether your organization could withstand real scrutiny of how you use AI today. If you would like, I will come and sit with your leadership team and turn that question into a short, honest list of what to put in place before the rules arrive and before someone else decides you have broken them.